Hey, if you're here again tonight, welcome back. And if you're new, get cozy. This is a good one to walk in on. You're listening to Midnight Clarity, bite sized therapy for when your brain absolutely refuses to shut up. I'm Amaris, a licensed professional counselor in Texas. And tonight, we're talking about something almost everyone experiences, but no one admits out loud. Because at least once in your life, you've had a moment like this. Something happens, or almost happens, and suddenly your stomach drops, your chest tightens, and you feel your entire identity wobble. A pregnancy scare, a weird comment from your boss, a mistake you can't stop replaying, a moment where someone looks at you differently. Shift in tone, a misunderstanding you can't explain away, and instantly, your brain isn't worrying about the situation itself. It's worrying about how it makes you look. Not, am I okay? But, what are they going to think of me? Does this change how people see me? Does this mean I'm not who I thought I was? Does this make me less? That panic, that almost physical drop in your chest, that's the fear that someone else's perception could rewrite the version of yourself you've worked so hard to build. And that's what we're diving into tonight. Let's talk about why moments like this feel so intense. Why one comment, one reaction, one imagined judgment can shake you all the way down to your bones. It's not because you're dramatic, not because you're insecure. And it's not because you care too much about what people think. That's the shallow take, the surface level version everyone throws around. The real reason? Because identity isn't built alone. It's built in relationships to other people. Your brain doesn't form your identity in a vacuum. It builds it through feedback, repetition, the roles you play, how people treat you, what you're praised for, what you're criticized for, what you're expected to be. And over time, you start thinking, this is who I am. This is how people see me. This is the version of me that feels safe. So when something threatens that, when a single moment makes you feel like people will see you as irresponsible, messy, unreliable, embarrassing, immature, unprofessional, disappointing, less than what you've worked to become. It doesn't just feel like a social slip. It feels like your entire identity is being rewritten without your consent. That's why your chest tightens. That's why you panic. That's why your mind spirals into the worst case version of yourself. That's why you feel physically sick with embarrassment or dread. Your brain isn't reacting to the situation. Your brain is reacting to the idea that I'm about to become someone I never wanted to be. And that fear, it's deep. Because for a lot of us, our identities weren't freely chosen. They were built over years of effort, healing, stability, and survival. So the idea of being reduced to the pregnant girlfriend, the disappointing employee, the awkward one, the failure, the unprofessional one, the one who messed up, it feels catastrophic. Not because the situation is catastrophic, but because the identity shift feels catastrophic. And your brain treats identity threat the same way it treats physical danger. This fear isn't shallow. It's human. I want you to picture something for a second. Imagine you've spent years, maybe your whole life, building a version of yourself that feels solid. Not fake, not performative, just curated, intentional, accurate to who you know you are. Maybe you've built a reputation for being responsible, ambitious, stable, thoughtful, put together, emotionally intelligent, caring, professional, whatever. Basically, the one who has their life together. Now, imagine all of that. Everything people know about you. Everything you hope they believe about you. is sitting inside a clear glass box. Not fragile glass, just transparent enough that people can see who you are. Every success you've earned, every good choice you've made, every bit of effort you put into your life goes in that box. It's not vanity, it's identity. And then, suddenly, something happens. Maybe you made a not so good decision. Maybe you straight up fucked up. Maybe it was an accident. Either way, that single moment of vulnerability that people weren't expecting is now also sitting in that same glass box. Ugly, spiky, slimy, dark, next to all your pretty accomplishments. And instead of seeing the whole you, your brain tells you everyone's eyes are zooming straight in on that one addition to the box. Not the whole identity you built, just the flaw, the moment, the fear. And in an instant, it feels like they're going to see me differently now. They're going to reduce me to this. I'm going to rewrite my whole identity based on one moment. They're going to think I'm someone I'm not. It's not the event you panic about. It's the recasting. It's the fear that everything they knew about me will be overshadowed by this one thing. And here's the part that makes it hit even harder. You worked so hard to become who you are today. Your education, career, stability, healing, relationships, reputation, integrity, self-growth. It wasn't handed to you, you earned it. So the idea of being seen as reckless, irresponsible, immature, unprofessional, the wrong version of you, it doesn't just feel uncomfortable. It feels like a threat to everything you've built. Because identity, real identity, takes years to create. And the fear that someone can erase it in 5 seconds, that's enough to make anyone spiral. Let's break down why your brain reacts so violently to the idea of someone seeing you differently. Because spoiler, your reaction isn't dramatic. It's biological. Your brain is wired for social survival. Not modern life, not careers, not Instagram, not adult reputations, just survival. And for most of human history, survival depended on being accepted, understood, part of a group, being seen accurately, not being exiled or rejected. So, when something threatens how people see you, your brain doesn't think, this is mildly uncomfortable. It thinks, if they see me differently, I could lose belonging. And your nervous system reacts like, danger, 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 even when nothing life-threatening is happening. So let's break down the pieces underneath all of this. 1, identity equals safety. Your identity isn't just who you are. Your identity is how people treat you, how predictable your relationships feel, the roles you play, the stability of your reputation. So when something threatens your identity, your brain worries your place in your community is threatened too. That's why you feel panic. Your brain thinks security is slipping. 2, your brain prioritizes negative information. One negative thing feels bigger than 10 positive things. You could have 8 years of stability, a master's degree, a strong relationship, a good job, a good reputation. But the second something bad could change how you look, your brain zeroes in on it. Because evolution taught your brain negative experiences are dangerous. I want you to think back to historical times when we still had to kill on our own in order to eat, harvest our own food. Couldn't just go to a store. When you ate something bad, your brain needed to remember that. When you came across a creature you had never seen before and it attacked you, your brain needed to remember that. It was the difference between life and death. So negativity is what our brain focuses on way more than positivity. Because to your brain, we're still living in that time where life and death hung in the balance of every negative experience. 3, your fear isn't about the situation. It's about what the situation seems to say about you. Your brain jumps straight to identity conclusions. You paused after I said that. You must think I'm weird now. I made one mistake. They're going to see me as unreliable. My boss frowned. I must be a disappointment. Your brain isn't reacting to the event. It's reacting to the story the event could create. A story that lives in other people's heads. A story you can't control. A story you are terrified will swallow the real you whole. That loss of control, that's the true threat. 4, humans fear being misinterpreted more than being disliked. This is important. Most people can handle disagreement, disapproval, not vibing with them. But being misunderstood, being seen as something you're not, that hits deeper because it feels like someone is rewriting your entire character in a language you don't speak. And lastly, 5, when perception shifts, your brain fears identity collapse. And that's the core. If people see me differently, who am I now? That sounds dramatic on paper, but emotionally, it's honest. Identity isn't solid. It's shaped through millions of tiny interactions and reflections. So a single moment threatens it. Your brain reacts like the whole house is tilting, not because you're weak, but because your identity matters to your survival, your belonging, and your sense of self. And I want to share something with you, because this fear isn't theoretical for me either. A while back, I had a pregnancy scare. And here's the part that surprised me. I wasn't panicking about becoming a mom. I wasn't panicking about my relationship. My then boyfriend, now fiance, and I had been together for years. We talked about marriage. We were stable, committed, prepared. The panic came from something entirely different. It was the fear of what people would think. This sudden, suffocating idea that everyone would reduce me to the pregnant girlfriend. Like all the work I'd done, my master's degree, my career, my identity, my growth, would get overshadowed by one moment. It felt like my entire glass box identity was about to be rewritten by other people's assumptions. And I didn't fully understand how deep that fear was until I had a dream that still feels symbolic when I think about it. In the dream, I had these strange warts on my face. Big, obvious, impossible to hide. I kept trying to cover them with makeup, kept trying to get them removed, but in the dream, every doctor told me they couldn't be fixed. And the weirdest part, inside the warts, there was cotton. Harmless, not dangerous, not even important. They were humiliating, visible, unavoidable, and everyone could see them. When I woke up, it hit me like a train. The warts were the fear, not of kids, not of motherhood, not of my partner, but the fear of being seen differently, marked, judged, redefined by something that didn't actually say anything true about me. It wasn't the situation that terrified me. It was the identity shift my brain imagined. And if you've ever spiraled like that, you know exactly how heavy that feeling can be. Which brings us to how this fear actually shows up in real life. The quiet signs that your brain isn't reacting to the moment, but to the meaning you're afraid the moment might have. Now that we've named the fear, that deep panic that someone else's perception could rewrite who you are, let's talk about how it actually shows up. Because most people don't realize they're spiraling. It doesn't look like panic. It looks like normal life until it doesn't. See if any of these hit a little too close. 1, You catastrophize what people must be thinking. One weird look, one delayed reply, one short sentence, and suddenly you're writing an entire novela in your head about how someone perceives you. Your brain goes straight to, they think I'm irresponsible. They think I'm messy. They think I'm failing. They think I'm weird. Not because you have evidence, but because your identity feels like it's on trial. 2, you avoid situations where people might see you differently. You don't talk about mistakes. You downplay bad days. You hide anything imperfect. Not because you're secretive, but because you're terrified of being recast in a role you didn't choose. 3, you replay conversations over and over. Not to understand what happened, but to assess the damage to your identity. Did I sound stupid? Did I look unprofessional? Did I ruin the version of me they had in their head? You're not reviewing the moment. You're reviewing the perception of the moment. 4, you defend yourself in your head before anyone has accused you of anything. Your brain is already preparing its case. Here's why that didn't mean I'm irresponsible. Here's why I'm not what they think. Here's why that moment isn't a reflection of me. That's not insecurity. That's identity fear. 5, you attach your worth to how consistently others see you. If people see you as stable, responsible, put together, you feel valuable. If someone sees you as anything less, your insides drop like an elevator with cut cables. Because it's not about the moment. It's about who you fear you become in their eyes. 6, you feel shame over things that weren't actually wrong. Minor mistakes, human moments, accidents, things that happen to everyone, but your brain treats them like moral failures because it thinks each one threatens the identity you work so hard to build. 7, you spiral more over being misunderstood than being wrong. You can handle being wrong. You can even apologize. But being misunderstood, being miscast as something you're not, that hits a primal place because it threatens your narrative control. 8, you assume people will always believe the worst version of you. Not because they do, because your brain is terrified they could. That possibility alone sends you into self-protection mode. 9, you try to fix the perception instead of the problem. You clean up the image. You over-explain. You apologize too much. You perform stability. You try to reassure everyone that you're still the good version of you. Not because you want to be perfect, because you don't want to be this seen. 10, your body reacts faster than your logic. Your chest tightens, your heart drops, your stomach flips. That heavy, slippery dread. Your body feels the identity threat before your brain can even translate it into words. And if you're sitting here recognizing yourself in these signs, you're not broken or shallow or image obsessed. You're human. Identity is the story you spent your whole life writing. Of course you panic when you feel like someone else might pick up the pen. And people's perceptions feel permanent, even when they're not. There's a part of your brain that believes, once people see me differently, there's no undoing it. It feels like a stain in your life. Freeze frame, a verdict. Even though logically, people forget things all the time. I don't even remember what I had for lunch yesterday. Emotionally, your brain believes perception is forever. And something to keep in mind, you were raised in a world that taught you your image is your worth. Maybe subtly, maybe loudly, but you absorbed messages like, be good, be polite, make us proud, don't embarrass us. You're the responsible one. You represent this family. Don't make mistakes. So even in adulthood, the echo is still there. If they think poorly of me, it means I am something wrong. Mistakes can be fixed, but credibility, respect, reputation, your brain treats those like fragile currency, especially if you've worked years to be seen a certain way. And there's nothing lonelier than someone believing a version of you that isn't true. it feels like shouting behind glass. That's why the fear is so sharp. Being misunderstood feels like being erased. We tend to tie our identities with consistency. We think if I'm not consistently this, then I'm not really that person. Consistently reliable, stable, mature, wise, good, whatever. So one moment of imperfection feels like a threat to the entire identity. As strong as you are, deep down, you still care about belonging. Even the most independent person on earth still needs connection, respect, closeness. Belonging isn't childish, it's human. And when perception shifts, belonging feels at risk. And then the shame sets in. And shame doesn't whisper, it screams. It tells you they'll judge you, they'll think the worst. This one moment defines you. Shame compresses your whole identity into one point in time, and your brain believes it. And that's the truth under all this. You're not scared of people thinking you're irresponsible. You're scared you might be. You're not scared of people thinking you're messy. You're scared you could become someone messy. Their perception feels threatening because it lights up a shadow self you're terrified of becoming. But that fear, it's not a fact. It's insecurity mixed with humanity. Here's the part most people get wrong. They think the goal is to suddenly stop caring what people think, to flip a switch, to become this unbothered, emotionally bulletproof version of themselves. But that's not how this works. You don't go from I'm terrified of being recast to I literally don't care at all. It doesn't happen in one aha moment as much as we wish it did. It happens in small, steady shifts that teach your nervous system something new. I'm still me, even if someone sees me differently for a moment. So let's talk about how you actually loosen this fear. Gently, realistically, compassionately, without forcing yourself into some fake, hardened version of confidence. Because confidence isn't, I don't care what anyone thinks. Confidence is, I won't abandon who I know I am, even if someone misunderstands me. Let's start there. 1. Remember the whole box, not just the new object inside it. We talked earlier about that glass identity box, the one filled with years of effort, growth, success, stability. Yeah, that one. When something embarrassing or unexpected or imperfect drops into that box, your brain zooms right in on it like it's the only thing inside. You have to remind yourself gently, this moment doesn't erase everything else in the box. Say it out loud if you need to. Write it down, whisper it in your head. This moment is one item, not the whole story. And people who know you, they don't forget who you are that easily. 2, separate the fear from the meaning. This is subtle but powerful. When you feel that panic, the stomach drop, the mind racing, the oh God, what will they think dread, pause. Ask yourself, am I scared because something is wrong or because I'm scared of what this might mean about me? 9 times out of 10, the situation itself isn't the real threat. It's the meaning your brain attaches to it. Name the difference. It takes your power back immediately. 3, ask yourself whose opinion actually matters here, because not all opinions are created equal. Sometimes you're spiraling over the imagined judgment of someone who doesn't know you, doesn't care about your life, doesn't have context, doesn't have access to the real you, and doesn't contribute to your safety or your belonging. And yet your brain treats their hypothetical perception like a full courtroom verdict. Let yourself ask, quietly, honestly, does this person know enough about me to rewrite anything about my identity? Usually, the answer is no. 4, ground yourself in the truth of who you are, not the fear of who you could be seen as. This is where the internal narrative gets loud. Your fear says, they're going to think I'm irresponsible. Your truth says, I am responsible. I've shown that consistently for years. Fear talks fast. Truth talks steady. You have to slow down enough to hear the difference. 5. Let yourself be seen in the gray. This one's hard. You don't have to be perfectly good to be good. You don't have to be perfectly stable to be stable. You don't have to be perfectly responsible to be responsible. People who care about you, and even strangers who are decent human beings, can hold nuance. But the most important part, you can hold nuance. You can be responsible and human, put together and imperfect, mature and occasionally messy. You don't lose your identity because of one flicker of imperfection. You're bigger than that. Your story is bigger than that. Lastly, I want you to give yourself permission to be misinterpreted without letting it define you. This one might be the hardest truth in the whole episode. Sometimes people will misunderstand you. Sometimes they'll judge based on a moment, not your history. Sometimes they'll see the flaw and miss the whole box. You can't control that. But you can control whether you internalize it. And letting someone misread you is not the same as becoming what they misread. Say it to yourself if you need to. Their perception is not my identity. Let it be a mantra. Let it be a shield. Let it be release. You don't need to fight every misunderstanding. You don't need to correct every opinion. You don't need to perform yourself back into safety. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let someone be wrong about you and stay rooted in who you know yourself to be. So before we end tonight, I want you to sit with one thing. You don't lose who you are because of one moment. One mistake, one misunderstanding, one awkward interaction. One version of you someone else builds in their head. You're not that fragile. Your identity isn't some delicate glass sculpture that shatters the second someone looks at you wrong. It's 1,000 choices, 1,000 moments of growth, 1,000 times you showed up for your life, even when it was hard. And none of that disappears because someone might see you differently for a second. You don't have to perform yourself back into perfection. You don't have to scramble to fix everyone's interpretation of you. You don't have to fight every imagined narrative in someone else's head. You're allowed to let people misunderstand you and still stay grounded in who you are. You're allowed to rest in the truth that their perception is not my identity. So, tonight, as you settle in, as your mind starts to quiet, as the world softens, and as the late night clarity starts to kick in, let yourself breathe a little deeper. Let your shoulders drop. Let the tightness in your chest soften. Let the version of you inside that glass box feel held, not threatened. You've done enough. You are enough. And one moment, good or bad, doesn't rewrite you. Not even close. Sleep knowing this. You're still you. Whole, steady, intact, unchanged where it matters. And the parts of you that are growing, they're growing in the direction you choose, not the one someone else imagines. Rest easy tonight. You're okay. You're safe. You're still you. Thanks for spending these few quiet minutes with me tonight. This is Midnight Clarity, where your mind gets softer, your thoughts get kinder, and you get to breathe again. Sleep well. Hey, before you go, just a quick reminder. If you're in Texas and looking for a therapist, you can book with me at embarkhealingtherapy.com. Midnight Clarity is for reflection and education, not therapy or personalized advice. If you're struggling or need support, please reach out to a licensed mental health professional or local emergency services. I hope you found clarity tonight.